Hello and welcome to the most must-hear podcast in the world of rock. Join hosts Charlotte, Joe and Max as they run down the latest news and their favorite bands. Ladies and gentlemen, the Overtone Podcast.
Hey, welcome to the Overtone Podcast. Today we're going to be talking about Rammstein, Crystal Lake and Willow. But first, Slipknot just released a new album.
I quite enjoyed it, actually. I'm not going to lie. I started not liking it. The opening song is terrible, but it gets there slowly.
I agree the first song's terrible. I don't know if I can agree with the rest, to be honest.
Why is the first song terrible?
It just doesn't sound like Slipknot
No.
at all. It's very piano. It's all kind of sung. There's very little guitar.
Kind of reminds me of in Parkway's new album when they did like the whole really slow melodic
sung stuff.
Yeah.
Is that not like a nice way to introduce the album though? Like to set it up?
I think it could be, but I don't think you go to Slipknot for like this overarching completeness. Kind of go for Slipknot. Other bands maybe like where you sort of start it slower and you build up tempo to end on a crescendo.
Yeah, see, it didn't really do that either. It just kind of stopped, and then it goes into a colder open of another song.
Yeah, I think maybe if overall that album did that, where it sort of the intro slowly built, like kind of like what Machine Head did. Their first album, like the first like minute and a half, 2 minutes, is very slow, but it really builds up, and that energy just continues the entire way through. I think maybe if something like that happened, it would have been alright, but to be honest, other than Yen,
I liked Yen.
I don't think there's any other song that I really liked. I kind of gave up halfway through the album.
I can't remember what song it was. I want to say I don't know how they want to pronounce it. H377 or something like that was pretty good. That felt more like the Iowa kind of style than anything else. But yeah, mainly the slower songs stand out more than any of the quicker stuff. There's a couple that really sound, for lack of a better term, stone sour.
Yeah, I've sort of had this feeling, especially with this album and the last one. I can't remember what the last album was called though. That Stone Sour and Slipknot are kind of bleeding into each other a bit, and it's not been in the best way. Rather disappointingly, I grew up listening to Slipknot. I really like Stone Sour, but it doesn't feel like them anymore.
Yeah. But yeah, even Jim Root's come out, and I don't think he's quite explicitly kind of said this isn't great, but I know he called out how little time they spent on pre-production and all that kind of thing for the album.
Which especially for Slipknot feels really weird considering how long they've spent on some of that other stuff before. I don't know. I despite what I've read around the place, if it's kind of like, the end of Slipknot, I don't think it will be.
No.
Their live shows are still some of the best shows you can see. I think maybe it was just a weird stepping stone in between, Iowa kind of Slipknot into whatever they want to be now. And I think we'll just have to wait and see what it really becomes, because up until then, I think it's really fair when they're clearly trying to develop their music to just be like, Slipknot sucks.
Yeah.
But the album wasn't great.
Through the friend of a friend of a friend, they're rumoured to play at Download next year.
Ooh.
How do you think that would go down?
I still think it would be fairly well received. I know people seem to be turning on the idea a little bit because they played so much in the past. I think it would be like their 5th time headlining it now.
I think it depends on what they play. If it's a good set list and a good show, you're always going to have naysayers to whatever you do. Like, basically any band ever played a show a few times, people start being like, I've seen them every time.
Exactly.
But the issue with that is there's nothing to stop you just going to see another band.
There'll be another
go do something else.
3 bands on at the same time.
But I think it depends on what Slipknot's playing. If they're playing something that kind of fits with the show, fits with the day, as long as they don't stop playing the really light songs,
Mm.
it will go down well. Like, they're still a phenomenal band, and their presence is insane.
Mm. Definitely.
I would like to see other bands headline, but at the same time, I think people are looking at it as like, oh, they've done it before, but I don't think that's the reason. Maybe it's just more from how I'm sort of into this stuff. When you're doing a festival, you can't take these like insane risks to get a band that maybe won't make the money. You need to sell the tickets.
100%.
It's all the power to them to bring in like smaller bands onto like side stages, smaller stages or earlier on the day.
Mm.
But ultimately, if you don't make money, the festival's not going to happen for much longer. So,
and they are still doing a good job at bringing in newer bands. Like just this last year, they had Massive Wagons, they had Those Damn Crows, Stone Broken, all on, I think it was the second stage, if not main.
Well, I can't remember if it was this year or if it was a little bit before, but Sleep Token played like one of the really small stages, and that's how they started to get noticed.
Yeah, they've had, Ginger and The Who and all this kind of thing just as they were starting to take off, and I think they've had plenty of new bands there. I think people are just getting a little sick of Slipknot and Iron Maiden and that kind of thing.
But to be honest, I feel like if their Slipknot's latest album was really, really good, no one would be complaining.
No, true. So we also wanted to talk about the fact that Rio has left Crystal Lake after 10 years in the band.
Really, really depressing news. Hit deep for me. They were first band I saw live.
Oh.
Yeah. It was still one of the best gigs I've ever been to.
Yeah.
Genuinely phenomenal. It's very weird to see that he's gone. Like, Crystal Lake for a very long time was just him and the guitarist.
Yeah.
And whilst it might have been last year or the year before, they formally like sort of announced the guys who had been playing with them, writing with them, were actually part of the band. Ryo's like, everyone knows his voice. Like, he is a very, very good vocalist in that space. Like, the amount of bands that have done songs with him, because it's relatively well known that he works hard and he works fast. So obviously, Spirit Box.
Of course, yeah.
They did a alternate version of one of their songs with him.
Yeah, that was good as well.
Yeah, and he's sort of everywhere. He does loads of stuff. There's even like a dubstep group that did a song with him. He has a very, very unique voice, and his sort of blend of Japanese and English, sort of the way it flows between the music is very unique to him. And I think when you listen to a Crystal Lake song, maybe you can sort of hear it out by the guitars, but it's really his voice. But he said on his Instagram that he wants to apologize to all his fans and everyone, but due to a medical illness called adjustment disorder, he's decided that he has to leave the band. He's not going to be able to continue with them. So he's been suffering with it for 5 years.
It's impressive that he's gone for as long as he has still, and being in the band and still working as much as he does,
releasing new music and everything. It makes a lot of sense as to why he's gone. I think it's one of those moments where you do remember these sort of grand musicians that seem so amazing and almost inhuman, especially with his vocals.
Yeah,
are people. And it's a little disheartening to know that when I saw them live, that he might not have been having a great time. He was saying that sometimes he couldn't stop crying before going on stage, and it's heartbreaking to read about. I sincerely hope that he's able to continue with the help that he says he's been getting, and he sort of is able to continue in whatever he wants to do. Maybe in the future we'll see him come back
Mm.
to music industry. But equally, if not, he's just going to be remembered as quite possibly one of the best vocalists in that scene of all time.
Yeah, 100%.
Do you think the band will then hit pause and then see if he's better in the future to reunite, or do you think they'll look for someone else, or is this end of the road for them?
No, Crystal Lake said relatively soon after, seems as though it was clear they'd had a chat with him, that they're doing vocal auditions, hiring new vocalists. How they seem to have the issue that like Northlane had when their singer exited the band, of since the singer's voice is very unique and he's very good, they've set out like almost like a quota of expectations they want from anyone applying.
Yeah.
Where you have to be able to do the entire back catalogue, every song they've done.
Oh wow.
So this includes like songs like Eon,
Yeah.
where his voice hits a filthy low note. But then also you need to be able to write new music
Exactly.
that
yeah.
fits with the style. You need to be able to speak Japanese, if I remember correctly. You have to, it's like to a level 3.
Yeah.
But then also they're like, you have to be able to regularly come over to Japan, or you have to live in Japan. It makes a lot of sense, considering they are all Japanese,
Yeah.
as far as I know.
There's a very specific requirements.
It's a tough ask.
Yeah,
Do you think-
definitely.
Do you think it'll be someone new on the scene then that no one's heard of before that will go for it and get it, or is it anyone on the top of your head
I
that
feel
you
like
think could?
Yeah, I feel like it must be someone new, almost.
No, I don't know. There's a few similar bands, a few sort of relatively similar bands that be surprised their vocalists joined. But if you look at their Instagram, they've been talking about everyone that's been doing it, who's applied. It's very interesting to see how like public it is as well.
Yeah.
They don't really seem to be hiding anything from anyone, which is great to see. But I don't think it's going to be something like Will Ramos from Lawn Shore, who's
Yeah.
kind of relatively obscure, and then just launched into this spotlight,
Yeah, true.
becoming the Rat King.
Yeah.
I have a feeling with Crystal Lake it's probably going to be a pre-existing musician or vocalist, especially with what they're asking. I maybe it will be a surprise to everyone, just a brand new vocalist on the scene, but I feel like with what they're asking and how high everyone's expectations are, not even just the bands, that it's going to be someone who's been in the industry for a bit.
It's going to be a tough job, whoever takes it over. Like, it could easily go one of two ways, really. Like, you just brought up Lorna Shaw, and obviously he's done fantastically in there, pushing to new heights. But then you've only got to look at, was it Blaze Bayley who took over in Iron Maiden for a little bit when Bruce Dickinson left, and the fans shun those two albums still to this day.
Yeah. The interesting thing to me though is Crystal Lake said in their things that they don't care who you are. Like, they made it adamantly clear you can be any person you are. It doesn't matter your sex, your race, your creed, your nationality. They don't really care, as long as you can do the job. And I think it's quite refreshing to see a band that is a Japanese band be like, look, we want to make music. We don't care who you are. It's about the music, and
as long as you can still do what we've written.
And I think there's quite a few bands that I'd love to see say similar things. Just be like, look, we don't care who you are. It's all about the music.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
it's great to see a band in this spotlight really demonstrate that.
So the next thing we want to talk about is the Taylor Hawkins tribute concert in London and LA. Did either of you guys watch it?
I've seen a few clips from the London one. I think I was working it, so I couldn't watch it live. But it looked good. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw bits of it. Again, I couldn't watch the full thing, but I've seen bits. And I think my favorite, one of my favorite bits was when Nandi Bushell did Learn to Fly. You know, the 12-year-old.
Oh yeah, on drums, right?
Yeah, how she's like she's for quite a few years. I think she's been like a online drum battle with Dave Grohl, which is quite fun to watch.
It did look cool.
So I love the fact that she got invited to go.
Yeah.
Because obviously, stereotypically, rock is very male dominated. So to see a woman on a stage and then to see a young girl on stage, I thought that was really, really sick. And then Rufus Taylor from The Darkness, and he's toured with Queen as well, because obviously he's Roger Taylor's son. I think he did Best of You, which was also really cool to watch. And I think he sparked a lot of people thinking, okay, who's going to be the next drummer of Foo Fighters if they carry on? Will it be, Taylor Hawkins' son, because he did My Hero, or could it be someone like Rufus Taylor, or is it going to be someone else completely?
But yeah, he did a great job on the drums as well. And yeah, it just looked like a really good show, to be fair. I know a few people that went along and maybe very less with lots of pictures and videos and all that, and they all said it was great. And still not got around to watching any of the LA stuff yet. I keep meaning to. It keeps popping up whenever I'm scrolling through socials. Obviously, Miley Cyrus apparently did a very good job doing Photograph with Def Leppard.
I think some people questioned why she did that, and then like why she chose that song. And then it came out that before he died, Taylor Hawkins left a voicemail. He called Miley and left a voicemail saying, "You'd be great at singing Photograph by Def Leppard. That's the song for you. You should smash that." So I think it's really quite nice that she did do that. It's just, unfortunate that it was at the tribute concert and not before.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
No, I think that was a really nice song to do. 53 songs for that LA gig.
That must have been quite long.
Yeah, that's like, what, 4 hours, maybe?
Something like that. And then they probably got time in between for changing the sheer volume of people over that were playing the show. I get why they didn't stream that one. Like, they only live streamed the first one. They're like, no, it's going to be too long. We'll leave it. We'll just put up clips.
I complain when I have to stand up for like a 2-hour gig. So like, imagine being in that.
Yeah. So our last news piece is the ongoing issues between Rammstein and Viagogo, the second-hand ticket selling website. They have taken the company to court and have somehow managed to get them to stop reselling tickets for their upcoming European tour, which I would say is a pretty big win, really. I know a lot of people are having issues with all these ticket resellers and all this buying out massive amounts of tickets as soon as they are released and then selling them on for extortionate amounts of more price.
Well, I mean, it's so bad when you buy tickets. Like, the first thing that happens to me every time I buy a ticket to something is it's like, oh, if you want to resell it, you come here, we'll buy it off you.
I know.
And then it will buy it off. It's like offering to buy it off me for like £1 more than I paid. And then they'll resell it for like twice the price, 3 times the price. It's mental.
Yeah.
There are like platforms like Ticketmaster though, like you can resell it, but it won't let you resell it for more than the price you paid.
Yeah.
So that's like the ethical way of doing it. If you legitimately can't go anymore, that's the best way to do it.
But then haven't Ticketmaster recently been called out for upping the price of tickets when the demand is high?
Oh, have they?
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
that's ruined it for me.
There's quite a big issue throughout the UK on stuff like that. It's like the O2 forums especially are pretty awful when it comes to ticket prices, which is why you see shows where it's like not playing at an O2 forum, but it's a bigger band, it's cheaper than a smaller band at an O2 forum, and it's like mental. But I think you kind of have to take the good sides where you can, especially when it comes to reselling. I think, like you said, Ticketmaster not letting you resell for more than the original price, I think is really good.
Oh, definitely.
In fact, when you go onto the reselling thing, it will automatically do it to a lower price than what you bought it for.
Yeah.
So I think it's really great. And whilst I think their prices can be predatory, I think the bigger issue that Rammstein had was that it's a reseller site buying great swaths of tickets to sell them again.
Exactly. It's stopping the fans that could just about afford a regular ticket from being able to see the band at all.
And it also gives bands bad reps because the fans just see it as like, oh wow, their tickets are so expensive this year. Why?
Yeah.
But it's not even their fault. Although it is sort of world-spanning issue on every industry. You see it, all sorts of things, especially shoes.
Yeah.
Very similar things going on there with companies being taken to court for just buying massive amounts of stuff and then reselling it for more. So I think it's great to have now this precedent that it's not okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Which should help more in the future.
How do you combat though if it's going to happen time and time again? Is there actually a way to stop it? Because I know like some bands like to sell tickets directly through their own website, but as far as I know, they don't allow resale through their own website. 'Cause the amount of faff that would cause.
I think there's a few ways to try and combat it, but I think as with everything, it's almost impossible to stop completely. Obviously now having a legal precedent, if it's quite a big company doing it, that should kind of help trim it down. But also some places will only let you buy 2 tickets maximum.
Yeah.
It kind of becomes a double-edged sword because obviously you have to like fully sign up to buy a ticket, but then if you've got a group of 5 of you wanting to go, like I'm seeing Pierce of Ale in December, I bought 4 tickets to that, which obviously I wouldn't be able to do. I think it can become tricky, but as long as you have another member in that group happy to buy a couple of tickets, it's not too bad.
Yeah, exactly.
But unless you put a cap on how many tickets you could buy, it doesn't really solve anything, unfortunately.
I know you can do that with like Ticketmaster.
Yeah.
And I recently bought Arctic Monkeys tickets, and through pre-sale it was max 4 per person.
Yeah.
Which I think is fine, but like you said, what if you're like a group of 5, it becomes tricky.
Yeah.
I think especially when if you want to surprise someone with tickets, you end up wanting to support the band to get tickets for a good price, but in doing so end up shooting yourself in the foot when you can only buy a set amount of tickets per person.
I remember, I want to say Iron Maiden a few years ago, we're trying out you having to bring the card that you bought the ticket with you to the show to prove that you're the one that bought it, which was, it gets very complicated again if you end up buying it for someone and you
what
can't
if you resell that?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's the issue. Like you can't resell it.
You
can't give it to your mate. I mean, think about all the times like parents buy their kids tickets to something.
Exactly. And then they're going to have to sadly go along and also listen to whatever their kid wants to see.
Yeah, and I don't think my parents would enjoy doing that with my music.
Yeah.
I did that once. I went to see, God, who did I go to see? I want to say either Whitesnake or Deep Purple, and my dad couldn't go, so my mum had to come with me, and we had to take my dad's card to like obviously proof that I've purchased. But, it becomes a bit of a nightmare.
I think it's, especially with this win with Rammstein, I think should hopefully open up the floor a bit to combating it on a wider scale.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it seems to be one of those things that we just have to wait and see. And hopefully people understand that the best way the individual can combat it is, one, buy your ticket early, but also only buy through the band recommended sites. You can often find this when they're announcing tours. So Ticketmaster, whilst the prices can be a little iffy, it's pretty decent. If you could buy directly from the band, that's really good, especially as you then know that money is going directly to the band.
Exactly, as opposed to
because also
every
you
other party.
should take a look at the cut Ticketmaster takes from things.
Is it extortionate?
It changes based upon where and how much the ticket is, but considering like bands make the majority of their money off merch, it can be somewhat frustrating to know the bands are barely recouping the cost of the venue by me spending 40 quid on the ticket and everyone going spending that money.
I think I always buy from people like Live Nation, Ticketmaster. I've never actually heard of, I can't even pronounce it, Viagogo. It's not one that I'm too familiar with, so maybe it's like the lesser known sites that try to do this.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen the name pop up a little bit whenever I've been a bit late to buy tickets for stuff, and it's already sold out, and it'll immediately send me that way. But yeah, they're just, I think they're always, it's just, I imagine they have bots, do they? That go
They
buy up as many tickets as they possibly can.
They'll probably cap it to an amount to try and avert suspicion to some level.
Yeah.
Because obviously if you buy every single ticket...
Exactly.
1,000 tickets, please.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely good to see this win, and I'll be interested to see how this kind of affects the space in the future.
I really wouldn't be surprised if there was no effect. I would not be surprised if people carried on doing what they were doing.
Got to have a little faith in the world.
I have no faith.
I'd like to see a few more bands do the same thing. I don't know how easy it was for Rammstein to get this win.
I think it's probably a difficult one because obviously Rammstein are very big. I doubt you'd be seeing, you know, a band with like really anything less than 100,000 like monthly listeners. I don't think they have the facilities to combat it.
No.
They won't.
I mean, they took them to court. Not every band can afford that.
No.
Even then, like, even if they had more listeners, like 500,000, I still doubt it. Especially not in America, where if it's a civil case, you still have to pay your entire legal costs. Yeah. Whereas at least in the UK, and I'm fairly confident most of Europe, you get your costs reimbursed if you win.
The other party has to pay it out.
Yeah, but I think even then it's like that gamble they'd have to take of, if we don't make this cost back, that could just ruin you. Yeah. So
a lot of bands won't do it. A lot of people can't do it.
They've just not got the funds.
Which is a shame. Yeah.
But hopefully it starts a bit of emotion. Be surprised if you might get a more class sort of action thing of like multiple bands grouping together. Yeah. Especially if like it's a label. Yeah, if the label gets involved, then I think that could be really good. But they probably won't, to be fair.
I don't know. I feel like at least a couple of labels these days take cuts off live shows as well. It really wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, but then I don't like those labels, so I don't want them to do a good thing.
But if they're at least going to help cut out this resale stuff, it's the best of a bad situation.
Yeah, I'd definitely.
Okay, so the next thing we want to do on the podcast is talk about what we're listening to. So for me, no surprise, I'm always listening to Hailstorm. Since they released Back from the Dead, it's pretty much been on repeat, and it made me really want to listen to their old stuff as well, to feel how they've like developed. I've also been listening to Kim Jenner a lot, so the singer from Voodoo Blood, and she's now in the UK touring with Revival Black. You should really actually check out her Instagram because she does reels of lots of different covers. So personally, I'd love for one day for her to turn these into full tracks and put them on like streaming platforms, because that's definitely something I'd listen
That'd
to.
Be cool.
She's like one of the I love listening to female vocalists. I really, really do. But I don't know many who can like scream and growl like she can. Obviously Lizzie Hale. Yeah. I love the Pretty Reckless as well. But like her tone of voice, Kim Jenner, is really, really insane. I don't know anyone else like her.
She's got a great range.
Yeah.
So obviously I went to the Long Road Festival a couple of months ago now, which is mainly country, and ever since I have not stopped listening to a band called Gangsta Grass, which are somehow who are somehow bluegrass mixed with a kind of NWO Public Enemy style rap, which really shouldn't go as well as it does. Like the beats behind the whole thing are amazing, and it just fits really well together.
You were playing in the car the other day, and to be honest, it is phenomenal. It's
really
quite
good.
upsetting.
I'm so intrigued by the name.
I know.
It's amazing.
That got me.
Yeah. From what I've read, I think they started out as so one of them had been offered a TV like theme song sort of thing, and they were like, yeah, do it in this kind of style. And then since then, they've just rolled with it, and they were so good live. Like,
that's one way to find your genre.
Yeah, right. Do this, but mixed with this.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay. No, that's cool. I'll listen to them.
They're good fun, and they're all ridiculously talented. I've never heard a banjo player quite that good. Not that I've heard many, I must admit.
Who's the band that we saw? The cowboy band. They're a bit rude.
Oh,
oh my god, what are they called?
Bootyard Bandits.
Yeah, they had
They're
a banjo, right?
I feel like they do a song or two. Yeah,
banjos are awesome.
Banjos are
Banjos
awesome.
are cool.
I don't think I'm coordinated enough to play.
I want to buy a banjo. Me and the boys hop
They
on the
must
banjos.
Just banjo it out.
Yeah.
Just everyone with a
Yeah.
banjo.
As for me, I've been trying to avoid the depths of my music tastes. Listening to a lot of country covers of like classic emo. It's probably pretty. We're not gonna.
I'm sorry,
we're
what?
not gonna. We will.
We'll get
There's a
there.
guy called Secret Treefort who made an album called the Yalternative album, and it's a country version of like classic emo, and there's Mr. Brightside on it.
That one sounded really
And
good, to be fair.
There's a banjo solo in it, and I'm not gonna lie, it slaps. And my music taste is so broken, I genuinely believe it's better than the original. But other than that, kind of gone off Lorna Shore at the moment because I saw them the other day.
Yeah.
Instead, recently discovered a band called Dayseeker.
Okay.
Got 2 songs I'm mainly listening to: Burial Plot and Sleep Talk. Quite heavy songs, not in terms of like screaming or instruments or anything, more in just what he's saying. Good one to cry to, you know. But
Always.
his voice is phenomenal. And there's an alternate version of Burial Plot. The woman singing that, her voice is genuinely phenomenal. I really recommend them both. Especially if you want something a bit sadder to listen to, but it's still really, really moving.
You need something to listen to when you can't sleep at 2 a.m.
I got a whole playlist for that.
From memory, it's surprisingly heavy, though. At least lyrically.
Oh, lyrically.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I got 2 now. I got Songs to Transcend to. That's a vibe, I tell you that.
Whilst we're sharing, I want to get on my Spotify and just read out some of my playlist names. Do you have any funny playlist names?
I mean,
Mine are really boring.
yeah, I think I got chonkers. That's for the
You
heavy
got what?
ones.
Chonkers?
Yeah, because
Nice.
they're chonking tracks. I got one that's called Maybe Pee-Pee, which everyone obviously thinks is related to a rather phallic object, but it's maybe pop punk. And I didn't think about this
Oh.
when making a playlist, and I just find it funny now.
I'm going to share some of mine. So I've got an all-female rock playlist, and they're called Heavy Queens because they are
Nice.
indeed heavy queens. I've got a playlist called Petty Bitch.
Fitting.
Yeah, exactly. It moves from being sad bitch to angry bitch to sexy bitch to petty bitch and everything in between.
Nice.
That's inspired by my friend Sarah. Thank you very much. What else have I got? I've got a playlist. Oh, okay. I've nicked my friend's playlist. Josh, I nicked his playlist. It's called Guilty, and it's basically like Hannah Montana. Everything on Disney
Nice,
Channel
yeah.
that you can imagine. I've got Life is a Highway for your proper like
Nice
in the car.
driving songs.
Yeah, exactly. Driving songs. And then one of my other favourites is called You Smooth Bastard, which is, you know, jazz, soul, Motown.
I do have one I stole from one of my mates called Tasty Licks for Pumped Up Kicks.
Oh my god, I love that.
To be fair, that playlist does slap.
You're going to have to share that after this.
Oh, I'll send it to you guys after.
We'll add it to our playlist.
It's yours now.
We have stolen it.
Pass the parcel on
Yeah.
playlists.
Yeah, mine are all really boring. I've got my mum's wedding playlist from earlier this year,
Oh,
Nice.
yeah.
which is a lot more boring than you'd expect it to be.
It's not. You shared that with me before. That's fun.
Some
That's
of
a
it was
fun
okay. Some of it
playlist.
was ska,
Nice.
but then
There's some
there was
cool
one that I
covers
had
in
to
it.
play during the blessing, which is all classical music.
What's wrong with classical music?
Yeah, don't diss that.
I'll
it's
fight
not
you
bad.
after this.
Okay. No, enjoy it.
Oh, to be fair, I do have one more playlist, which is with my uni mates, and it's called Slut Babes.
Nice.
But none of us changed the name, we left it open on the computer at uni, and someone changed it. So we have no idea who's named this playlist, but we think it's hysterical, so we've left it.
That's fair enough.
What kind of songs are in Slut Babes?
A plethora.
Okay.
Obviously you got like Lorna Shore. And since it's me, there's an ungodly amount of Sleep Token in there. Then there's like 2 Sleep Token songs that aren't in that playlist.
Nice.
But then like you end up with like this weird blend of like one of the guys loves ballads, so you go from like deathcore to ballad to my mate's EDM music, and then another guy's like, I don't even know what to call it. It's like it's cool. According to him, it's like Frenchcore or something. It's like EDM, but the BPM is like 1 billion. So it's just and the to be fair, good fun.
Okay, but when do you listen to this playlist? Is this like a Pre's playlist? Is it driving? Is it chilling? Is it?
I think if we played it whilst we were driving, we would crash the car. Like just the whiplash you'd get from the genre change. We just listen to it whenever we're together. So like whenever we have a barbecue at mine, it's just like
that's
someone
awesome.
whips it on, and then we try and guess whose song it is that comes on.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, it's good fun. Yeah.
Nice.
So with the whole series of events surrounding Falling in Reverse, namely Ronnie and Sebastian Bach, about whether bands should be able to perform with or without laptops, I was wondering what you guys are thinking about that.
So what happened with Falling in Reverse?
So the story goes that they were going to play like a festival or a gig or something, and their laptops got stolen. So they announced they weren't going to be able to play because it had their backing tracks, their clicks. It had like a lot of stuff that was incredibly important to them playing, in their eyes at least, and they don't believe that the show would be quite as good for the fans if they were to go without it.
I understand that. I think a lot of bands do nowadays rely on.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised
technology.
if many bands at all don't do some sort of pre-prep.
Yeah, I think especially with bands like Falling in Reverse that have this sort of techno side to them, and they've got all the effects going on. I don't think they're playing synths live. I'd respect if they did though. But like when there's so much going on, I think rather than cluttering the stage with a bunch of random people
just doing
trying to make it work, having everything on your laptop is really great, especially like we've mentioned, the click track, which is keeping everyone in time. And whilst you do have the odd example of people surviving without, like when Polyphia's drummer, his in-ears failed,
of course,
and his drum tech tapped out the
the
BPM. Yeah.
On his leg, wasn't it?
Yeah. But then you're also playing the entire thing from memory at that point. You often have like cues and keys going on.
Yeah.
So you know where you are. And Sebastian Bach and some radio presenter.
Eddie Trunk, apparently his name was. I don't know what station
I think he deserves it. The name. Some radio presenter. Like, just started hitting him with the most boomer take this century has ever seen, of being like, oh, well, if you can't perform without your laptop, you're not real musicians. And it's kind of going on and on, of Ronnie kind of just being like, I mean, okay. And then as it goes on more, Ronnie just kind of becomes Ronnie again.
Yeah.
And just starts slapping back. It's amazing.
It's gone on for days as well.
Oh, I'm fairly confident it's still going on.
Yeah.
I'll like go on Twitter after this, and it'll be like 40 more tweets. But like Sebastian Bach was on this like whole thing of like, oh, you know, I'd never do that. I could perform without it. And then Ronnie, being Ronnie, responded to his tweet with a picture of an article of Sebastian Bach playing with the DJ, where all it really was him and a laptop going like this year, and it's like,
that's the level of petty I aspire to be.
Yeah, that's one for your playlist.
That's one for my playlist.
Yeah. And it sort of like created this debate in on the internet around how important it is. Sort of wondering your guys' side. Do you think it's important to music? Do you think it kind of takes away from seeing a band? Do you think you're now kind of watching more of a performance of a pre-recorded show, or are you watching a band perform live?
I mean, I feel like a lot of the backlash around any sort of backing track use and anything like that that's been on the last few years is a lot of more people not quite understanding what is actually being used for and stuff like that. Like, I know a lot of people have called out Shinedown in the past. Saying like, oh, he's lip syncing, yada yada. And it's like, no, he's not. He's just got a backing track helping with the harmonies and that kind of thing. On that,
I do think, obviously, like the whole lip syncing thing is an important take.
Yeah.
But then when it comes to bands like Falling in Reverse, I mean, like, basically every band uses a laptop in some extent.
I think you've also got to look at their albums as well. Like, artists create like these really big albums, and there's so much to it. To replicate that in a live performance, you need the extra technology. It wouldn't be the same. And then if they didn't do it, you'd get people complaining, saying this sounds empty, this sounds raw. Well, it is because of the lack of technology. So I don't blame artists who do it. I just don't want them to overdo it. I think there's a fine line between overdoing a performance with too much and it taken away from the actual musicianship. But at the same time, I understand why people do it.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's like, especially if Sebastian Bach had done like 3 milliseconds of research into who Falling in Reverse are, rather than just being a dick, he'd realised, like, especially like their latest album, the last few songs as well, like, there's very like techno focus on it, and it's very clear it's not them playing it.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of people have sort of hit back with this opinion that when you go to see a band, say it's for an album, you want to hear them play that album.
Yeah.
And I think any reasonable, half-smart person could really realise that you're going in, you're seeing this. It's not just about seeing a band perform live anymore.
No.
You're going to watch a show. It's a spectacle. Like, when people go watch, Rammstein, you want the pyro.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Exactly.
Like, it's a massive part of the show. It's the same thing, at least in my eyes, that the laptops with the backing tracks, the effects, the cues, your backing vocals, everything. I think, like you said, Charlotte, if you go to it, and it's not there, it just feels empty and it's weird. And I think it's important for the entirety of the show to have this.
Yeah, take Bring Me the Horizon, for example. Like, Jordan's entire role, not his entire role, but a big part of his role is obviously singing, but he does all the percussion, and then he has his laptop and all the synthesizers. Like, it all adds up to one big performance, and it is needed. I understand that there are bands like, take like older classic bands like AC/DC or like Deep Purple or something, like that you got your typical drums, guitar, bass, that's fine. But even they use like synthesizers and things like that.
They use IEMs, they use click tracks.
I mean, and AC/DC, there is no way that they've mic'd up an actual bell for Hell's Bells. Like, that is a sound effect.
But then I think it's also like the argument that bands of old, they were recording it without. I think it's just such a dumb argument. It's like, yeah, of course they were. If the band was recording in the 70s, before the invention of that technology, funny enough, they're not using that technology. It just feels like such a dumb argument about nothing. Where
sorry, carry
on. No, it's just like this whole thing of comparing modern bands that using equipment and using tech that is provided and is accepted in the industry, and they're turning around being like, oh, you're not a real musician because you can't play without it. It's like, no. People have paid to see them do that. Without it, what are the fans going to do? They're going to be like, well, where's all that gone? Why's half the song missing?
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's such an unnecessary, very boomer take.
And it's It's not even like every song a band produces has to be over the top with new technology.
No.
Maybe it features on a handful of songs, but maybe it's really key on those handful of songs.
Well, quite. I mean, you have some of Falling in Reverse songs, especially if they play some of the older stuff, that doesn't have a lot of it.
Exactly.
You go to their new stuff that does. I mean, Bad Omens, right? They have like Dethrone, just a filthy heavy song.
Yeah.
Then they have others that are very like more melodic, and you can tell there's some effects going on. There's some synths played. I think it's if the entire thing is coming out of a laptop, I might as well be sitting at home watching it myself. Yeah. But it's the presence of the band, it's the way they perform it, and especially when it's not like it's even a fifth of what's going on.
They're all still playing, regardless of what else is playing as well.
It's like I don't really see him saying, Sebastian Bach saying this to like a group like Polyphia or, Steve Vai, who all use laptops, who all have bang tracks, who have clicks. But when you go see them, they're still playing guitar like that. It's still insanely impressive. But I think he's like kind of gone on this one band because he thinks it's going to be an easy fight. And then
not been an easy fight.
Yeah, and then basically everyone has responded with, that is like the most ancient take ever. And it very much frustrated me seeing it. I'm very entertained by Ronnie's response, but just the whole kind of pointless argument of like, oh, you're using a laptop. Plus also, if I got a bunch of my stuff nicked, I wouldn't want to perform.
No,
I'd want to try and recoup that.
What did happen with the gig? So if they pulled out, did someone else take their place?
Yeah, so my understanding is another band were able to take their place, which led to another tweet of Sebastian Bach being like, they didn't have to, they were able to do it at short notice, they didn't need all of this.
Well, maybe because their songs don't require it.
Well, exactly. The band didn't need it. It's such a mind-numbingly dumb argument. I think it's great for all the people who went to see the show that there was another band take the place. But like, even fans aren't exactly going for Falling in Reverse. Yeah. Because it's a pretty understandable thing. A bunch of your stuff got nicked. Obviously, there's going to be issues that are occurred there. Like you saying, if the guitars got nicked, they're not real musicians because they can't just pick up a guitar again. No.
Use someone else's guitar.
Yeah, it's... Stuff is set up and used and bought for a reason. It can be overused completely. But that doesn't mean they're not musicians because they need something to help them perform.
I agree. I think that's the first moral of the story. Second moral of the story is always make a backup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, my understanding even with that is it was multiple laptops that were taken.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. Like a lot of their stuff got nicked.
How does that even happen?
I don't know, but whoever was doing security on that, they ain't having a job much longer.
It seems to happen quite a lot, though. You hear countless stories.
Oh, so it's a big target.
Of bands having
big target. Well, I mean, if you can get backstage at a festival, who's in the tour bus when the band's out performing? No one.
Exactly.
Half time, there's not going to be anyone there.
No.
If you got a you got a crew pass, you got a backstage pass. No one's going to bat an eye.
There was a band in Sheffield, and I feel really bad that I can't remember their name, but they were on tour, and a lot of their equipment got stuck at like another airport. So they arrived at the venue having like none of their stuff, and they literally had to like go around Sheffield like talking to like their contacts saying, have you got this specific pedal, have you got this specific kind of amplifier. So I wonder what people would say about that as well, like, oh, you're not real musicians if you can't just pick up a guitar and play. Like, I wonder what the argument there is, because if you need specific technology and instruments, then that's what you need. End of.
It's gonna sound crap if you don't have the right pedal, the right sound, all of that, even regardless of whether you're using stuff backstage.
But then it's like you can even take it on such like a more minute level of like bands use specific strings on their guitars because it changes the tone of the guitar. Like if you're using, so you need to like you see bands change between songs because certain guitars sound better. I get you see it more on potentially other types of music, but it's also the tuning of it.
Yeah.
You don't need to retune halfway through a set. You techie walked on, hands your guitar, bosh,
exactly.
You can play the next song. You can pick a fight on any level, but I really don't understand the necessity for it because it's like bands need the equipment they have because they need the equipment.
Yeah.
Like, I'd much more understand the argument of, like, if some of the lights got nicked.
Yeah.
You know, somehow someone took some of the lights off the rig, and then the band was like, "Oh, we're not playing 'cause we don't need lights." Yeah, that's a stupid hill to die on.
Yeah.
When it's the actual equipment.
I want to say it might be a generational thing. However, I'm trying to think, and I can imagine a lot of like musicians who have been around for a while agreeing with us. Like,
yeah,
I want to, on one level, I think, it's a generational thing, but I don't think it is. I think it's the person.
I think it's just his mentality. To be honest, from everything I've heard about him in the past, it doesn't really surprise me.
Yeah.
Does he want to pick a fight?
No, he's always seemed like, with everything I've read, he's a bit of a dick.
So he is one to pick a fight.
No, well, yeah, I guess, but like, it's not like he goes after people. He's just like very self-assured, you know.
Yeah.
Has an opinion.
Yeah, fortunately, that gets expressed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like basically everyone's behind Falling in Reverse.
Yeah, it's been a very one-sided argument, really.
That's good, at least.
Like, I've seen bands of like the same age as Sebastian Bach being like, I mean, we use this stuff too.
Yeah.
You trying to fight us. So, I don't know. I'm sure Ronnie will have his fill of just annoying people on that.
Yeah.
And then it will go back to just being normal, but it is quite entertaining to watch Ronnie just, you know, absolutely destroy people on the internet.
Ronnie actually win one of these arguments for
once. And an argument I agree with for once.
Yes.
You know, that's nice.
Well, exactly. That's another whole thing, is that there's so many people who usually probably wouldn't be on Ronnie's side.
Well, exactly.
Given his history.
Ronnie is an incredibly controversial person.
Yeah.
But
everyone's been like,
it's such like a genuine thing of like, that's such a dumb point that even people that hate him are just gonna be there like, to be fair, like, I can really argue with that.
Yeah.
In a way, it's a bit wholesome then, the fact that the industry is back in this one argument.
Yeah.
Hopefully this doesn't happen again.
It's a very weird but nice unifier of people.
Yeah.
So
my only worry is now, if I ever have the chance to see Sebastian Bach, is he going to play without a click track? That
I would love that.
Right?
I really hope his techies on his next gig are like, but are you not a real musician?
Yeah.
I don't think you need this.
Like, no, you can't.
You don't need lights. No, you don't need lights. You don't need speakers. Just be loud enough.
Yeah.
Just be loud enough.
Like, I would love to see it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just everyone being like, just get good, mate.
We can only hope.
Just be a good musician. God.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to the Overtone Podcast. Join us next time when we talk about AI in the future of the music industry. Have a good day.